Hey everyone, and welcome to the AI Leadership Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Sam Joseph, and today we're very lucky to have technologist Henry Allen on the podcast. Hey Henry, how's it going?
Hi, it's going great, Sam. So thanks for the invite. Happy to be here.
Very happy. We met at the VEED hackathon, which is an exciting time, and you've gone on from strength to strength. I believe most recently winning the Cursor hackathon. Congratulations on your win there.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. The Curse Hackathon win was awesome, but yeah, we met at VEED Hackathon because I was building a podcast outreach tool, and I guess it worked, and now I'm here. So,
There you go. Absolutely. Outreach,
yeah.
you've got a feedback loop there. Fantastic. The audience, I'm sure, is really keen to hear about your technology origin story. How did you get into tech? How did it all happen?
Okay, awesome. So, my technology origin story. I actually kind of So when I was 18, I kind of looked at life and I was, well, university and was like, I don't want to go to university.
Hmm.
I want to start my own business, etc., etc. So
Yeah.
I first started in like marketing and was like, okay, I can do a marketing agency. So
Hmm.
I was working a sales job whilst in school and then trying to build a marketing agency on the side.
Hmm.
Essentially, I was studying computing. And whilst I was studying computing, the GPT 3.5 API had just come out.
Hmm.
So I ended up finishing school and I had this new love for AI because I was just playing around with the API and this love for business because I was trying to start a business, right?
Hmm.
So instead of going to university, I decided to kind of combine both those passions and I started a custom development agency
Hmm.
and did that. I worked in my parents' loft for a bit until I could finally move out, and then I traveled, built loads of cool MVPs. So I built Airbnb chatbots for ski chalets. I built AI voicemail assistants for realtors.
Wow.
So I built loads of cool niche solutions, and then I ran out of money whilst traveling. I kind of struggled to sell those things, but I was learning so much. I was kind of just
Right.
go out there, do it attitude. And then I worked for a mentor of mine for a bit, growing his voice AI community.
Hmm.
And after that, I had loads of experience and loads of projects on my CV because I was essentially just building and building and building. So
Right.
loads of projects on my CV, and then I managed to get a job here as an AI engineer here in London, and I've been doing that for the past 9 months, which is awesome. Yeah.
Brilliant. Wow. Amazing. Amazing. And yeah, I'm interested. So this is you kind of effectively created your own university experience, as it were, from just like building, and that as you were building things, and this was just you were self-taught. You were finding stuff on YouTube. What were the resources that you were using to kind of like allow you to build these voice AI solutions and so on?
Yeah, so I started off like I basically all I had learned in school was like basic Python. That was my coding knowledge then, and then
Yeah.
okay, how to call an API, like I kind of knew that. Uh,
Hmm.
and then I think my first like dive into the like how do I build these MVPs automations were like
Mm.
I started with low code tools like VoiceFlow or Make.com or Zapier just to like figure out okay how
Right.
can I integrate this with this small business's tech stack and just chain things together.
Yeah.
Um, and I did that for a while. And then voice AI, I used like platforms like Vappy to build voice agents.
Oh yeah.
Mm. And then from there, I essentially just had so much like the background of automation, how to put a workflow together
Right.
that when I decided, okay, I'm now gonna throw myself into like more vibe coding, like download Cursor, get like straight into it. I
Yeah.
found it a lot easier because I can put together a PRD really fast and like understand like this is the workflow that needs to happen for the
Hmm.
solution. And yeah.
Right. Amazing. Well, it's interesting because my own well, my son is eldest son is 20 and he's at University of Southampton doing computer science and so but my twins are 16 and they're kind of like, oh, we're not sure about university. We want to go build stuff. And it's really interesting to hear a model there. I mean, actually, other people in my family have kind of done. My cousin got into computer games programming through a similar sort of mechanism, just throwing himself into it completely. And it's yeah. I mean, you've carved an amazing niche for yourself there. Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of it now, I'm seeing people like, from my experience, I can't really say it, but I have friends who have gone to uni and they say like going out building an MVP or going to a hackathon and just coding is like they learn way more than doing Java on their university course, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's an interesting, like I was, I've taught, bricks and mortar universities. I've taught online. I've run a coding boot camp. I've run hackathons. I think what was really interesting to me was seeing the people coming through the Makers Academy coding boot camp, and we would do like a 12-week conversion course with people, and people. I mean, I think partly it was that they were, they'd been out in the workplace. They'd, found, it not as fulfilling because they weren't really making things. But then, like out of a cohort of like 30 people, 28 would like be like through a process of like constantly building stuff for 12. It's basically like a series of week hackathons when you do one of these boot camps, at least if it's run well. And you like you're learning all of these things. It's so intense. And in contrast with when I was trying to run that in a bricks and mortar university, is you might see two or three people out of the cohort or the group of 30. And I think there is a big thing from there. I mean, I guess on the defense of the university side that there is a there's an aspect of I don't know what it is of the broader structure. Like it perhaps creates space for you to study not the Java per se, but compilers and other bits and things that you wouldn't necessarily get the chance to do so if you're constantly building and building and building. But I mean, all power to you. I think it's I'm very excited about that continual building process. Wow. And just out of interest, yeah, you mentioned Cursor, the AI engineering that you're doing most recently. Can you just sort of fill in where is that left? What are the main tools that you're using in the latest job, and how are you getting the best bang for your buck?
Awesome. So my current job, I do applied AI stuff, so AI for marketing, so mostly MarTech solutions. So we
Oh
do
yeah.
AI SEO,
Hmm.
which basically automating all the backlinks to keywords and stuff. So
Right.
been doing that at 55 and 5, who are a marketing agency. We serve Microsoft partners.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's I'm basically just putting all the AI together into the pre-existing marketing workflows to just make them 10x more efficient. Uh,
Right.
but yeah, well, I'm actually moving on from that job to start a role as a founding engineer at
Oh
a
yeah.
startup in London called Helmguard,
Oh yeah.
and they do AI for cybersecurity compliance. So
Wow. Yeah,
I'm kind
great.
of in between two things at once right now, but
But exciting times, which I think that leads us into our second question is how is AI affecting your life and work? I mean, you mentioned a few elements of it. Obviously, you're right there in AI. I mean, we're undergoing effectively, I would say, an AI revolution. Similar to I would compare it to the advent of the smartphone, to the internet. I mean, maybe even the printing press. What's your feeling? I mean, or are you like, what is this thing? You're in the
yeah.
sea and you can't see the water. How are you feeling about AI?
I mean, first thing is like I'm starting to get an attachment to like Claude, like
Okay, okay.
um, but yeah, I mean, my understanding like AI is what I live and breathe. Like
Yes.
I'm either talking about AI or using AI or like going to an AI event. Like I absolutely love it. So
Hmm.
for me, it's brought like community and just passion and like kind of purpose. Like I love seeing how I can build with AI to build something useful, or how can I save this person from having to manually enter all their
Right.
details into an Excel spreadsheet so they can do
Sure.
something more like purposeful or like more impactful at their job instead of doing all this
Hmm.
data entry or like there's loads of small tasks like that which I think we can use people to do more creative things if we can free them from that. So that's what I'm excited about. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. I think like many people, and I'm interested when you were 18 and you sort of first started. How much AI were you using at 18, or was that before the kind of it really switched on?
so, so 18, I was in sixth form, and I had just like ChatGPT came out, I think, yeah, the second year, so for sixth form, so
Okay,
November, and then the GPT 3.5 API came out, I think May of the next year. Uh,
right.
And then that was when I was like, holy shit, because basically I had like a end of year project to build for my grade.
Hmm.
Um, and I was like, wait, I could just throw in the API and suddenly I have like a whole like AI system which no one's ever seen like before. This is like 2023 or
Sure.
2022, which was really awesome. So I managed to build like some weather assistant that would give you like, okay, it would take in like Google. weather API. They everyone
Uh,
say, okay, based on your allergies, etc., and this weather, you should do this. But it was really cool because it
oh
was
wow, cool.
an app that would actually talk to you, and it was I managed to like build a lot more than my classmates just because I was leveraging the technology.
Got you.
Yeah,
Right, right. Amazing. Well, this is an amazing story. I mean, I think, those of us who've been working in technology and AI for many, many years have been blown away what's changed. You're now, at that point, you know, th- it's just an incredible story to me. Like ChatGPT is there and you adopted it and suddenly you were being 10x, as it were. And I mean, as I said on the podcast before, it's like it's a bit like the Mario Kart speed up. If you're pointing in the right direction, boom. If not, you go straight into a wall. But it sounds
yeah.
like you're successfully riding the wave. Well, and yeah, so you're like AI through and through, and you had that sort of initial wow, this is fantastic. And I guess what is it the case that maybe if ChatGPT hadn't been there in that form, you perhaps wouldn't have gone in the same direction? Do you know what I mean? Like it wouldn't have seemed
Yeah.
quite so possible to build the things that you went on to build after sixth form.
Yeah, I 100%. So if AI wasn't there, I don't think I'd have the as fast as a feedback loop. And being someone with ADHD, I'm like, I get bored of things quite quickly, and that doesn't really happen with AI because I get such a fast
Right.
feedback loop and can like, okay, that was cool. Now I can move on to the next thing. So I probably would have leaned into kind of more like marketing stuff. But what's awesome is I'm able to code and then learn all parts of the stack from like the DevOps deploying to the cloud to like the front end and building the front end. And normally, I imagine it in like a normal engineer, it would take you years to like kind of progress or to kind of nail one or understand certain concepts. So I have a really big kind of overview of like full
Right.
stack development, although I'm not insanely proficient and can't like leak code in all the languages, but I still have
Mm,
like a great understanding of like how to put things together and workflows. And I think that's
yeah.
the new role of engineering is we're seeing. So,
No, absolutely. Yeah, and I think I mean, the so we call it the old world model might be that, oh yes, there's lots of these things and they're all very complicated. And you'll do a university course and you'll learn about all the things individually, and then you'll get an internship or a first job, and you'll learn a bit of one, you'll read some books, and then you'll be able, and I think I mean the internet, even in the web, sort of pre ChatGPT, did enable sort of like self-directed learners, because like you could go and read about these things on Stack Overflow, even if ChatGPT wasn't helping you out. And I think there was we saw them coming through the boot camps and so on, is like people who were self-taught. And so that sort of old world model of how you must learn all of the things before you do, was being eroded. And I think ChatGPT, it sounds like it's eroded it further, because now you can sort of do your self-directed learning on steroids, and you can like ask for a bit of a thing, and then you can go through and get a bit of it working, get a prototype, and then you can go through each bit and ask ChatGPT or Claude or whatever for more information and more information and more information. And yeah,
yeah.
it's an exciting times in which we live. Yeah, and so obviously you're using AI very much for work. I mean, it's a key thing. I wonder outside of work, like we just had Alcatel on the podcast, and he was talking about how he was using the ChatGPT advanced voice mode to have conversations with ChatGPT as he's walking around. We heard from it's oh gosh, what I usually do. I'm so bad. The thing is, I'm an older gentleman, and I'm starting to forget. There are so many people on the podcast, and I forget the names, and I usually bring it up here. It was, I'm going to pronounce it correctly. The Shubin Virk, yeah, who was also at the VD Hackathon. He was talking about how he's using it for helping, like planning almost everything he's doing. Are you using Claude or any other AI to sort of help you outside of work?
Yeah, so outside of work, I do like brainstorming or like if I want to do a LinkedIn post, okay, this is my tone of voice. How can I
Hmm.
like do this? So like normal tasks and then like embarrassing stuff like, okay, these are the symbols on like my clothing. What do those symbols mean for like
Oh, really? Okay.
like just I love to throw in like images to the AI models and like kind of
Yes.
get a better understanding of stuff that I've kind of maybe overlooked or like don't care to like research. So yeah, it's kind of
Absolutely.
replacing Google in some cases. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking the same thing, and I'm finding that in my own life as well, is that things that in the past that I might have searched on Google, there, and of course Google's now got Gemini AI answers that are sort of built in as well. Although, yeah, I'm often finding that I'm going to particularly now that ChatGPT, the app on the phone, has the web search built in. A bit like Perplexity kind of was the forerunner of that. That I am a lot of things that I would have Googled previously. I'm just asking ChatGPT about it. It does seem to be big changes. And so, yeah, I mean, you're going into this new role as the founding engineer in the new startup. I guess so far you've generally been working as an individual contributor. Although maybe in the hackathons that you've been involved in, is it
Yeah,
been?
hackathons I always get like a team. Apart from the Veed one, actually, I was trying to doing two things at once at that one. But yeah, I love to work as a team. I mean, I've got an intern now. Like I love to like work with people. So I'm excited for Helmgard because there's more AI engineers, more people, which is going to be awesome. So
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, and I mean, what? So, I mean, as a like you've got an intern at the moment, you've got so you've worked with these teams. You're obviously like a self-directed, go-getting sort of leader. Do you think explicitly about leadership and how to lead a team in a particular direction? Or maybe it's I don't know, it's all bottom up. How does it work from your point of view?
yeah, so that's on my mind all the time. I think my end goal is to be a founder, right? And I'm
Hmm.
doing this all for like experience and to level up, and then eventually,
Yeah.
like, okay, how can I be as clear cut to VCs as possible, so I can just
Hmm.
once I've got that idea, just go 100%. So yeah, I think about leadership, um, but a lot. I really see now like how important hiring is, and like
Hmm.
how the difference between people different engineers and different kind of attitudes and culture. Like culture is a big thing I've noticed like at different companies and like
Hmm.
startup culture, hustle culture, and like how culture you have at the start matters like
Sure.
for years, right? And how the culture might actually change to as you grow.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, leadership I think is setting good culture and being honest, being like okay, ask me questions like what if I'm you have a question for me, just tell me.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that I get around it. But yeah,
Yeah, brilliant. No, great stuff. Yes, well,
how do you think of leadership and what have you seen over the years?
yeah, I mean, I've seen all sorts of things, and I think, I mean, I'm a big fan of what I would call servant leadership or bottom-up leadership, where, and the thing that I'm often saying to people is that, you may have as a leader in the hierarchy, let's say that you're the VP engineering or the CTO or the head of engineering or whatever it happens to be, or even just the team lead, you may, looking at what's going on, have a perspective that is like, oh yeah, I know what to do. And I think there is a class of people who just, they like decisive leaders who also come in and say, yes, here's the thing we do, we're going to do this way. And I don't work so well in those kinds of teams myself as an individual contributor because I've I'm having all my ideas and so on. I kind of the style of leadership that I try and adopt and I try and encourage leaders around me to adopt is one of like scaffolding the team. Like I think the risk of the kind of like all-seeing, all-knowing leader who's going to come in with the ideas and do all this things
Yeah.
is they risk burnout, right? Because everything's on them all the time. And I think a more exciting and a more fun for me way to work is, let's say let's say I'm leading a team and I've had an idea rather than necessarily immediately just saying, "Hey, everybody, like we should all do this," is I might try and make space to ask people individually, "What are you seeing as the biggest problems right
Mhm.
now?"
Yeah.
And the thing is, now if you do that in a group meeting with like 10 people, maybe one very confident person might say something. I think the key is to be like sort of forging those, a sort of a friendly, safe relationship with each person individually, so that there's a communication can flow. And then in that context, if you can say, what are you seeing as the big problems? What's troubling you at the moment? You can hear from people individually. They'll say, "Oh, well, I'm having, one, you understand their struggles and the things that you might need to help them with in order for them to excel. But you kind of like empower them to offer ideas. And then sometimes, like one person on the team might have the idea that you had anyway, and instead of it being your idea, it's now their idea, and you can say, "Wow, that's a great idea," and you can sort of champion them. And so, what rather than let's say you've got a team of six that you're trying to push in this direction, rather than it just being you kind of against them, and ironically, when it goes badly, suddenly you've got somebody, and I think the other people on the team see that you're championing this one person's idea, so they're like, "Oh, if I had an idea, I'd get support for it." And then you can perhaps get into this sweet spot where you have almost like an autonomous team that you as the leader don't need to be kind of constantly saying, no, this one, this idea, this direction, or what have you. You've got sort of empowered individuals who are coming up with ideas, and then you need to be helping them kind of like work out how to test their ideas and sort of like when it goes wrong, how to handle that, and this and the other. But I think that's the way to greatness, I would say.
Yeah. I think that too, but I also I'll play devil's advocate for a
Please, please.
second. How do you maintain that? Let's say company grows to 100 plus people, and you
Yes.
still want to do one-to-one relationships with everyone. I guess it would be, I don't know, like down the org structure, and then you would pass on that responsibility,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, so and as the structure grows, I mean, this is, you mentioned already about the importance of the initial culture and hiring and so on. Is what you then, as you're becoming a leader of leaders, is
Mhm.
that you need to be scaffolding those leaders to be leading well. So yeah, there's no way that if you've got like 100 people who are individual contributors below you at CTO or what have you, you can't really have one-to-ones with all of them. You might have occasional meetings with them, but it's then like that model of the leadership applies at all levels. So let's imagine you've got a person who's a middle level manager and they've got, like, let's say 4 reports coming into them who each of themselves are running, teams. So then the thing is, rather than you as this like middle level manager saying, right, you four, the way you should be running your teams is this, you should be like doing your one-to-ones with your 4 reporting managers and hearing about what they think about, and maybe, for a particular team, one of your managers is going to be saying, yeah, I know you like all this bottom-up stuff, but these 4 guys, they just like to be told what to do. And then, but and I think there again, you're kind of giving the autonomy to the manager or the leader who's working with that thing to work out the process that works for them. And to me, that's the core of the agile thing, which gets derided, which is basically allowing, all of the individual sub teams to find the process that works best for them.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. I think that's the answer. I mean, if we're talking about kind of culture and orgs, one of the roles that I find really interesting that I see
Mm,
like a trend of people hiring is
mm,
like head of experimentation, where they have like
mm,
this kind of department whose job is to kind of question everything you're doing and
mm,
give you the ideas, or maybe, okay, we normally wouldn't invest in like just doing this random thing, but there's a TikTok trend or something that is something
sure.
we need to go ahead try.
Uh-huh.
I think that's really cool. So that's one of the things I want to build at companies.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean those are exciting
Experimentation
things, and
teams.
and
Yeah.
and they're needed because, even with the best of intentions, I mean I've sketched out like a sort of a bit of a dreamy, like sort of self-empowering, autonomous, thing. Whatever. The reality is that everybody who's coming into your organization is coming in with their expectations of how things were at their previous organizations, and even with the best intentions, once you have that many people interacting with each other, it sort of takes on a life of its own. And people become, there's a lot of politics. People are afraid to change. They're sort of covering their own arse. It's just, and so, sometimes the change that may be necessary for the survival of the business, the right kind of experimentation, the innovation is actually quite difficult to flow through. I mean, like organizational change is really, really hard. And so doing that kind of, empowering the organization to make the experiments within a certain sort of safe setting and then change their structure in order to best meet the needs of the organization as a whole rather than necessarily of any one individual. I mean, yeah, that's the exciting challenge, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, good stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, in this time of like AI cornucopia, do you have a most exciting tech hack? What's, like just hot off the press, the last few, is there some new thing that's come out that you're using that's revolutionizing the way you're
Yeah.
doing things?
Yeah, so I'll loop back. So yeah, last week or the week before, I won the first Cursor hackathon here in London.
Ooh.
And the tech I used was VO3. So
Oh yeah,
VO3, for those that don't know, is the new video generation model, I believe by Google.
by Google, yeah,
You can make really good quality videos. But
extraordinary, isn't it?
the
Yeah.
problem I realized was that you're limited to only 8 seconds, right? So
Yes.
make 8 second video, and prompting it is really hard.
Mm,
The annoying thing is prompting it is hard and it's expensive. So to kind of iterate and get better at prompting,
yeah.
it takes a while.
Mm,
And then a trend I've seen all over my For You page is like these VO3 vlogs. So
uh-huh.
my favorite would be Stormtrooper vlogs, where it's like 40 seconds of
Yes.
like a Stormtrooper going like vlogging like his
I
day.
know. Yeah, I saw it. It's hysterical. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, it's so good. So I kind of figured out, okay, the Stormtrooper vlogs, they do it really well because it's a kind of a character that the, every generation, the
Yes.
AI knows what the Stormtrooper looks like.
Yes.
So if you imagine it's a bunch of 8 second clips stitched together,
Mm.
in the hackathon, what I built was essentially a platform. You go in, you put one prompt in,
Yes.
like your story that you want, and then it
Yeah.
breaks it down into kind of four scene prompts,
Yes.
one for each kind of, okay, the hook, the middle, and like
Yeah.
each 8 second bit. And then it generates those 8 bit, those four scenes, 8 seconds each, and then stitches them together with FFmpeg.
Right.
So pretty simple in the end. It was a small hackathon, but it was really cool, really effective because
Brilliant.
it solves like the okay, I don't know how to prompt because
Hmm.
I turn your prompt into like four specific prompts for VO3 that include like how to do the camera angles, how to do this and other
Right.
stuff wouldn't like think of prompting in. So
Brilliant.
yeah, that
Yeah.
was really cool. The only problem was like it was super expensive to like do. So I actually used I used the FAL credits I got from the
Oh,
VH1 to
yeah,
use
yeah.
the VO3 API, which is on FAL. So but I see it getting cheaper. I think there's
Yes.
VO3 Fast over the API, which should come out, which is like 1/5 of the price, maybe, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, brilliant. Well, that's I've got. I'm so I'm jumping on that surfboard and surfing that. That's wonderful. The thing is, I'll just say the Stormtrooper. I think I saw one of those. It had Stormtroopers out in the like in a frozen world making a snowman was one of the one I
Yeah.
saw. The thing for me was is they were using the wrong kind of Stormtrooper. It should have been the snow troopers. If you probably
Oh
watched,
yeah.
I mean, I'm a stickler for some of these details, but I've been doing the same thing. I mean, I just created a kind of one of these stitched together things for my book, and the prompting is it's infuriating. Like I got like a near perfect like final scene, but I had like missed one word from the dialogue that I wanted, but then trying to get it to produce the same scene, but just with that dialogue slightly tweaked, it just sort of, you go
Yeah.
around the 2 minute debugging cycle. It's a real pain. I mean, I'm interested for your solution there in terms of creating the prompt. Were you going to a different like ChatGPT API to kind of turn the user's initial request into the broken
Yeah.
down thing? Is that right? Right.
And that's exactly what I was doing. And it was more like, okay, here's a normal template for like a VO3 generation video, which
Yes.
I made up. Definitely needs some improvement because it still varies. Like if
Sure.
I'm doing so my idea for the demo was to do a Cursor X Imperial hackathon. Like
Uh-huh.
and then it was
Oh,
like
awesome.
Stormtroopers vlogged it and then they shot the cover in the demo and it was just really funny.
Oh,
Um
fantastic.
but yeah, I'll link the GitHub repo for that. So
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I've gone a bit nuts. What's the word? The non-API interface for VO3 is driving me a bit nuts because you have to kind of like start over each time, and I don't know, or you end up with this sort of unlike for I think is it Sora for which is OpenAI's offering has like a lot more options in terms of okay, I'm going to delete this and restart from here and what have you, but it doesn't have the sound, and I think that being able to give the characters dialogue just is VO3's kind of killer
yeah, it's really
approach there.
cool. And like some people are even like trying to able to jailbreak it and get it to like swear so that it goes viral.
Uh,
TikTok will go like and it's so like weird seeing like the stormtroopers swear at the other guy and say like, "Oh man, like where the fuck are we on Endor or some shit?" Like,
Ah, brilliant.
it's awesome.
Yeah, well,
I'm
it makes me think
excited
of
for all the fun things that AI brings. Like, it's
well, it makes me think of combine. Well, even then, would be simpler would be to combine it with actually for the voice thing because the stuff I did for the Veed hackathon was where I was taking a stand-up comic and changing what they were saying and using the lip sync thing. So actually, just anyway, all sorts of exciting things. The future is coming wonderful. Well, I mean, and that takes us nicely to the future of AI. How do you see it evolving from here going forward?
oh wow. So I probably see AGI in like the next like 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
but then again, what does AGI mean? Like
Hmm.
there are certain like no everyone doesn't seem to
Agree.
agree. My consensus is like where it like reaches human intelligence and can do like most human things.
Sure.
And then it's also goes viral everywhere, and everyone started calling it AGI or accepting it. Like
Hmm.
AGI is just general acceptance of like a superhuman AI, really.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, and then where else do I see the next few years being really important for AI. Like if we get AGI, what's past that? I think nuclear fusion is
Oh
insane.
yeah.
Like that's the next step is okay, now we've got this AI, we've got all this data centers that are needed to power the AI. Where do we
Hmm.
get the energy from? Because now
Right.
it's costing us lots, or like we need a more efficient way.
Yeah.
So nuclear fusion, if you're like, I really like Helion Energy. They're a
Hmm.
UK company that solving nuclear fusion. So
Hmm.
um, that's really cool. Yeah, and then past that is probably like space and like
Oh yeah.
traveling space. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I think energy is the next problem or next thing where investors are going. Like if you look at like where Sam Altman's investing, where like Meta's
Oh yeah.
investing, it's all like in nuclear fusion and like these big data centers to like combine the two because
Yes,
you
yes. I
need.
just saw I think Amazon, they're putting like hundreds of billions into a huge load of new data centers throughout the US. It's like things are really ramping up. It's I mean I think it's extraordinary, the debate about all the, I mean, I've, been keenly following, I mean, in the background, nuclear fusion and more actively following AI for the last 40 years. And nuclear fusion has always seemed kind of around the corner, a bit like with more sophisticated AI. And I've always been in the, oh, well, we're not going to see it. I mean, the changes that we've seen in the last 3 or 4 years in terms of I didn't, I had no certainty that I was going to see them
Yeah.
in my lifetime, and it sort of makes me feel that all bets are off. But it's just so interesting following the debate about AGI. And like I just listened to, it was at Machine Learning Street Talk. They had Gary Marcus and some other folks talking about AGI, and the main argument seemed to be about whether they thought it was likely in 2027 or 2030, and that seemed to take up so much time. It sort of seemed like sort of political jousting, really. The far more interesting question to me is how does our human world change when, AGI arrives? I mean, I think there's very cogent arguments about the ways in which, although these LLMs are very capable, they clearly have various sorts of shortcomings. And I think things like, are you familiar with the ARC challenge?
Yeah, the eval, right? For
Yeah, it's I mean, sort of
evaluating.
with a hidden sort of test set, and it's all these sort of like fairly complicated 2D, I mean, for the listeners, these sort of 2D representations of sort of logic problems. And the like the new version of it, Arc 2, even the latest, like O3 LLMs really can't do very much on it. And so I think there's an argument to say that there's a certain, well, the biggest problem I think we have in terms of, this argument about whether they're truly intelligent or not, the LLMs, is that it's so difficult, and this is to distinguish between truly creative intelligence and simply having a really good memory. And I think schools and the education system struggle with this, right? In like, what you would really like to do, like for your workforce, for all the human, you'd like to find, the most creative people. You'd like to help everybody become as creative as they possibly can. But the way we assess people is with exams, right? Which is usually that you've memorized a load of stuff and you've got the exam technique, and it's this general problem of assessing intelligence, right, for humans and for AIs.
Yeah, I failed so many exams. Like my whole thesis is just give me a project and let me like learn that way, let me build that way.
Yes,
So I
yes.
think that if we were talking future, I think it's going to become like so obvious. Like people are going to have to change something about the way we're doing exams or like
Mm,
can we be creative by building projects? And then if we were talking like the future of AGI, I think AGI will also enable us to then build more technological advancements way faster. So if you're familiar with like longevity, escape velocity, that's
right.
the concept of like us making more technological advancements faster than we are aging, so that
Yes.
you can you can maybe live forever, or like these concepts are like they blow my mind. But I
Yeah,
love.
yeah. Well, have you read the culture novels by Ian M. Banks?
No, I have not. No.
Definitely check those out. He's got two sets. I think he writes as Ian Banks. He has like a load of sort of like drama, and then Ian M. Banks. He has it's a vision of the far future where, like, effectively the AIs are kind of in control. They're effectively these sort of like huge sentient ships that like, are large enough to have atmospheres on them, and the humans all have like a sort of a neural lace and live many centuries, and like they're kind of they're still sort of recognizably human, but they're effectively at some level kind of like cyborg things. It's compared to the many dystopias, it's kind of like a positive vision of the future, which whether we'll get there or not, I'm not sure. It's yeah, I
Yeah,
mean oh, go on.
I think there's need for like more looking into like post AGI economics. Like, okay,
Right.
okay, if we do UBI, what does that mean for everyone? Like,
Yeah, sure.
how do we do UBI right? Because it's more
Yeah.
like the way I see it is it's just like a term that's just thrown as, oh, if this happens, then we do that. But I don't think there's
Mm.
enough people in enough big positions actually thinking about it or leading it. I mean, I say that I'm not totally tapped in. I'm assuming that we've got experts on it, but um, like
Yeah.
as an AI engineer, I'm not. It's not finding its way to me that information. So
No, and I mean it's interesting. I tend to find myself somewhat skeptical of the experts knowing the right thing to do. I don't know. I feel like that. I don't, maybe there are two ends of a continuum where some people sort of feel like, oh yes, people who've studied, medicine and economics and all or what it happens to be, that they kind of that the experts sort of know what they're doing, and if they focus and it's all, they'll make a plan and things will be okay. And the more that time goes on, I sort of feel I'm more on the other end of the spectrum where I'm saying like. I think everybody's just sort of they do get trained, and that does help them in certain situations. But the big scale systems, right? Like the operation of like healthcare, like for example, at the COVID level, right? Then and they had all sorts of experts coming up and saying we should do this, we should do that, and it's almost like a sort of a theater of we know what we're doing. When this was a new situation, then I'm not sure that, and I think the debates will go on about, were the steps that the government took under medical advice the right steps or the wrong steps, or it's I mean, it gets to the point where you almost can't assess. And similarly with things like, UBI, universal basic income, and so on. Which I think, Finland had a trial of that, and I'm kind of a fan of it. There's so many complicated things. I think it seems to me that the chances that the situation at, let's say, a country or a global level is analyzed dispassionately, and the steps taken to benefit the most people is taken, and that kind of follows through to lead to that result. Because it sort of seems to me that a lot of the time the legislation that's brought in, perhaps with great intention, even if I mean maybe it doesn't necessarily end up, leading to the expected outcome. And then experts argue backwards and forwards. Oh no, you should have done this, you should have done that. It just, so I sort of feel like, it's a big chaotic system, and there's not much hope for us to control it. Do you know what I'm saying?
yeah, I've got a feeling that all the legislation is going to come at once. I think
Mm.
Europe tried to like, or that they have like put more legislation on AI than perhaps the United States, but now we're
Right.
seeing that like kind of negatively affects like AI talent in Europe, and they're like, oh, I'll just go do that there. So I think kind of we legislation where it's important in like AI safety, but I think there'll be more legislation all show up at once. I think it will be more of a reactive move to something happening than a preemptive move, annoyingly. But
I think that's sort of the nature of human systems. Like politicians react to what people are saying and doing, and so on. It's I mean, all the I was going to bring up the concept of the singularity, which some people poo-poo, but I mean, you talk about, longevity, escape velocity. I mean, it doesn't seem so unlikely to me that at some time in the next few years that we will get to this point where, I mean, I think the first example of it, and perhaps it's apocryphal, but I mean, it's a real example. Google's, Gemini came up with a new matrix multiplication algorithm that's like 1.5. It's not like a huge advance, but it is like 1.5% faster. And then that's now gone into the Google data centers, and it's saved them, at Google scale, billions, or at least millions. And it's being used to train the new generation of Gemini. So that does seem like there is this potential for a reciprocal feedback loop between the advances that AI can bring to actually make the next generation of AI smarter and smarter and smarter. I guess this is the real question about whether it can get to kind of like a human level of intelligence creatively. I can't like I'm not saying that we've got it, but I suspect that you're in the same camp as me. I can't see any reason in principle why in silico shouldn't be able to be as creative and as smart as a human. You know what
yeah,
I mean? It's
yeah,
it's
if not more, right? Like,
Well,
yeah.
indeed so.
But yeah, I mean, we're seeing big advancements, and it leads me to the question of like, who is going to be the player that reaches AGI or this? And I mean, we've just sat through a bunch of like this week of poaching talent from OpenAI, loads of like $100 million sign-on bonuses, which is like,
Yes.
you think about it, Ronaldo got signed to Real Madrid for 80 million, and like these engineers are getting signed for 100 million. Like, what's going on? It's
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think independently of the academics or other people, arguing backwards and forwards about whether AGI is possible, it certainly seems like but independently of AGI, it seems like at the highest levels of the people with the biggest amounts of money, they are seeing AI as the next revolutionary thing, and that, there's sort of a perception that the person who can win that race, a bit like the space race, then gets, global bragging rights and gets to set the agenda for everybody else. Like they're kind of, you almost get into this unassailable position. If you've created like the AGI and even the superhuman intelligence, suddenly it's a whole different ball game. And I think that's then if we that's what's really difficult to do. I think it seems like a majority of I don't know, I would say like voices seem to be saying, "Oh no, we'll never get to AGI. It's not possible in principle. That AI will just be a tool." Right?
yeah.
Yeah, sure, maybe for like 2, 5, 10 years, but it seems like that. There's a point at which something that's going to be fundamentally more intelligent than a single human. I mean, have you read Ray Kurzweil's The Age of Spiritual Machines?
No, no.
Like, you might like to check it out. I mean,
I've got a reading list that now.
yeah, yeah. Or just ask ChatGPT to summarize it for you. But I can do a similar job, which is that he took what I said, the Hans Moravec's, which he also did a wonderful book. But and I read this while I was doing my PhD. But he was looking at the cost of computing power, going back to mechanical calculators in like the 1890s or what have you, all the way through the different transitions, the vacuum tubes, the transistors, the silicon, and so on, and seeing that there was this kind of basically this exponential law of like it's always increasing and increasing and increasing and increasing, and people have been talking about like the limits of what can be done on silicon, but he was pointing out, oh look, actually okay, maybe there is a limit on silicon, but another technology will come along to replace it because there's this ongoing process. And what Ray Kurzweil did is that he took that and extended that out to like 2099, and was like sort of these points. And I think it was like 2024. He was saying like we'll have computers that have as many connections as in the human brain. And then, but like at that time when he was writing the book, he didn't know what form that would take, but he was just saying based on computational capacity.
Yeah.
And then he was extending it out to you get to a point, and like for him it was in 2009, where the computational capacity that's available, right, is not only bigger than a single human brain, it's not only bigger than 10 billion humans on the planet and all of their brains put together, that effectively the computational processing power becomes like that all of the like 10 billion human brains, that's like 0.01% of all the computational capacity. And you get to this point where effectively God has been created. I guess it's got a bit messianic, but I get excited about these things.
That is so cool. I
uh,
mean, yeah, I'm kind of in this situation. I just want it to be even faster. I've got addicted to like it being so fast, and
mm,
it's like
mm.
now I can't imagine like things being slow anymore. Like it's just new news after new news. I mean, even like have you seen the like the news yesterday of Soham, who was the guy that got hired at like multiple YC companies? Like it's blown up on Twitter. There was
No,
this
tell me more. This is the name of the guy is Soham, and what's
Soham,
happening?
Soham. But
Yeah,
yeah, so there's this guy who he was essentially working for like 20 YC companies at once, and none of them realized, and he was just completely lying. And
oh
my
wow.
my favorite take was that he's apparently like OpenAI's AGI experiment. It's just a funny topic, but
Oh,
yeah.
but what was it? He was effectively using like 20 like agents to do the work for these multiple companies in
Um,
parallel.
I think so, but I don't think he was lasting long at the companies. I think they were kind of firing him for not doing it. So,
Okay,
and
okay.
then what happened was like one guy on Twitter was like, "I've had enough." Like this guy, he worked for a friend's company, and then like everyone else was like, "Wait, he's works for my company, and it's just a massive chain of
Oh,
loads of.
okay, right, right. And then but so this is more of a story of a guy being shown up rather than AGI being around the corner
Yeah,
so
yeah,
much.
totally.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think the reality is that there'll be. I mean, I've talked about it before with I think Klarna. You know, they fired like 3,000 call center staff saying we're going to go completely over to AI agents, and then they've had to rehire them because the AI hasn't actually delivered. And so yeah, I think there's going to be, I think, a lot of missteps along the way, but certainly, fundamentally, the abilities of these systems seems like they're just going to keep continuing. I
Yeah.
guess it's not impossible that I mean, I used to think email would never take off, or the web. I'm terrible at predicting these
Yeah.
things. Maybe we will hit some sort of plateau that we don't understand. Although other news is what is it? I think Meta, they've got their new it's Aria 2, basically kind of like a VR/AR built into like what look like almost ordinary glasses, but
Oh
like
yes. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
constantly recording. And it's like I think one of the key things for these LLMs and those sorts of architectures is you just need like huge more amounts of data. But
Yeah.
if you imagine like almost everyone on the planet wearing these sort of AR glasses the entire time, like the volumes of data. I mean, it seems to me that part of what's happened with the internet is we got that huge amount of data that went into the web, and that was used to train the LLMs. And then all of the images from the smartphones and whatever became improved the vision models. And if you just think that the more and more data, like if you're constantly recording the entire world from everybody's perspective, that all
Yeah.
becomes data for training. It's
Yeah, so I was at Prolific's office yesterday for to watch a panel, and Sarah, I think she's the VP of Prolific, she was talking about how important human in the loop is,
yes,
and like having getting good human like data of like actually having good human data of like, okay, this is what it looks like with the glasses on, like this is getting that data is really important. And kind of one of the questions that divided the room, well, we, my friend Josephine, she asked, okay, what's the question? What divides the room? And it was funny because 11 Labs were like, oh, we don't see a world where human in the loop is needed. And then Prolific was like, because they do human in the loop, it was kind of like, okay, what's the controversial take? And then that
sure,
was
sure.
Lab's take, and then Prolific, and it kind of divided the room. And it was really interesting to see, like both of these companies, big companies, different takes on like human in the loop and how it will grow, and do we just use agents? Like how
Mm.
do we like do our evals? Are we going to have loads of humans doing, okay, this is good, or are we going to perfect like an algorithm that can just do all the evals across the board?
Yeah, yeah, no, I think that's a really important question, and I suspect that human in the loop is going to be very important for quite some time, and I think
Yeah,
that probably be some people will say that you know you cannot build a system that will be any good if you don't have human in the loop somewhere. And I think that is the question about AGI. I think AGI is ultimately a system that can do well without a human in the loop. And I'm pretty convinced that it will come. And I think when it does, everything will change in very unpredictable ways. It's crazy times. Leading into our final question. So what does it all mean? This life, this universe, this everything? Are we living in a simulation? Is it all dreams in the mind of God? What's your take on the nature of reality?
uh, my take on the nature of reality, I think one it's kind of hard to comprehend. Like I just see sometimes I sit on the tube and I'm like, wait, all these guys have their own lives, and it's like I can't imagine it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think purpose. Like when people ask like big picture, oh, what's important in life, I think purpose, and I think of it
Mm,
like an onion, and you
mm,
have different layers of purpose throughout your life. So
mm,
when you're younger or when you're first getting into tech, it might be, okay, I want to learn this so I can do this. And then you might actually have like a career change and say, actually, I've now discovered I want to do this. It doesn't
mm.
mean that your purpose was all along this. It was just mean you've reached a new layer of the onion, right?
Right. Interesting.
Um, so big picture thing, I like to drill it down to everyone's got their own individual purposes, and
Hmm.
they're like on their own path. And then I think all my takes about like the future and where we're heading, I think it's really cool to just be a human, like part of the human species.
Uh-huh.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah,
Cool to be human. That's a
Cool
new
to be
meme.
human.
That could be a good meme. I mean, not that I'm not very good at.
That made
I
me
thought the web
really
and the email wouldn't take off. So don't
yeah.
trust me on what's a good meme. But
Um,
I like that.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's the take. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love it.
What about you? What about you? What do you see and how
Well,
would you
yeah, I mean, I think fundamentally, I don't know. I'm asking this question of a lot of people on different podcasts of comedians and technologists and so on. A lot of people are saying that you make your own meaning, and it's the process of making things, being creative, is the meaning. I mean, I think I find myself, I particularly like with the advent of the VO videos and so on, it starts to seem to me to be highly plausible that we are living in some kind of simulation. I mean, it'd be very, very sophisticated simulation, but you know, sure, why not? I mean, I didn't get asked, I didn't ask to be created. I appeared, my consciousness kind of formed, and there's this kind of I have this coherent experience day to day, right? And I have these incoherent experiences of these what we call dreams each night. And I guess I have generally chosen to believe that the coherent experiences is the life that's sort of connected to some underlying real world. But then a bit like what you say about the people on the train, I often sometimes trip out on, there's my perception of reality, which is, like right now I'm sitting here and the window's open, it's a nice sunny day, and I'm chatting to a fascinating podcast guest, and the world is going on, and I've got this, telescoping series of memories of things that I think happened to me in the past leading up to now, and I can kind of look out and see things going forward in the future. And it feels like a huge, and I can imagine, the electrons and the quarks and all the subatomic particles in the keyboard in front of me out to, I'm sitting here on the surface of a film of this, like, this sort of muddy film around a sphere going around the sun, which is part of this, like galaxies and clusters, and there's, however big that seems to me, like you're saying, everybody else on the train, everybody else in the world all has their own kind
yeah.
of like universes in their own heads that are actually, like selective stories that they've pulled together, because we can't remember actively
Mhm.
every element of our life or see every part of our world. And it just, yeah, the mind boggles when one thinks about the complexity of it does, for me, I mean, I have children, and that really has brought a huge meaning into my life. I mean, the most remarkable thing for me is seeing my children go from effectively that they didn't exist, and then I've watched them go through from infant to adult size and learn all along the way, and sort of scaffolding them and helping them in whatever way I could. Really gave huge meaning to my life, and yeah, I think that I derive meaning. It comes from I love that process of interacting with people in such a way that we can help each other, which I think connects back to my thoughts on the leadership and this, that, and the other. I mean, I am a screaming narcissist. I'm sort of very excited about myself, and I think it is very cool to be human. It's very cool to be me,
Yeah.
quite like being me. But I'm trying to broaden my focus to sort of. I think this is one actually. There's a big thing recently we had in my team is one of the team members came up with a fantastic new idea, which really took the what we were delivering as a team out of the park. And part of me was slightly jealous. I was like, I kind of wanted to have that idea, and like an inside voice. But actually, I think a reframing of that is part of, and I was the team lead. Part of the success of that is actually not saying, right, this win is mine, or like, I think it's so much more exciting to win
Yeah.
as a team than it is as an individual.
I mean, this goes back to like at the start of the podcast when you mentioned like letting other people have the ideas and empowering them as in through leadership. Yeah, it's so important. Yeah, there's just so many cool things happening.
Yeah, yeah, brilliant, brilliant. And I love your description of like you say, like an onion, in that it's like you're finding your own purpose, and as you go through experiences, you discover layers and different purposes, and yeah, and I think that's yeah, I think if we can keep on discovering and learning and growing, that does seem like a really way to be a cool human being. Yeah, good stuff. Wonderful. Well, time is rushing on. It's been an absolute pleasure, Henry, to chat to you about all of these different things. If the listeners want to find out more about you, find out about the hackathons you're going to be on, what's the best way they should get in touch?
Yeah. So it's Henry Allen AI on socials, and I'll drop like a link in it in the description of this
Yeah.
to get in contact with me. And I will be at the Paris Race Summit, so I'm doing a hackathon in the Louvre
Oh,
next
wow.
week, which is
Cool.
really awesome. So I'll be there. I'm gonna try to document some of the journey and
Brilliant.
some of that. So I have to post
Yeah.
about that as well. So if you're interested in like what a hackathon looks like and like where the best talent is in Europe and how we can build more talent in Europe, I love that topic and like building tech. Yeah. So yeah.
No, fantastic. Excellent. Well, thanks everyone. That wraps up this episode of AI Leadership. If you'd like to be on the podcast or join the Rebel AI community that it all started from, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, Sam Joseph. That's sam@neurogrid.com, and we'll be all in your ears very, very soon again. Bye for now. And big thanks to our guest today, Henry Allen.
Thank you.